The Story of Usud, Ancient Serbian Folk Tale. Once upon a time, two brothers lived together in a house they inherited from their parents. One was a diligent type, hard-working, industrious, conscientious. The other was lazy, slothful, and constantly idle. All he did whole day was eating and drinking. God was good to them. They acquired lots of cows, horses, sheep, pigs, bees, and many other things. And one day the hard-working brother said to himself, "Why would I work for both myself and my lazy brother? Isn't it better if we separate, so I can work only for myself?" And so he went to his brother and told him about his decision. But his brother was not pleased. "Don't do it," said the lazy brother. "It is good for both of us this way. You control everything, and I let you do as you please and do not interfere. And I'm always happy and content with whatever you do." But the hard-working brother was adamant, and so they separated. Each brother took half of the property. But lazy brother did not want to manage his half by himself, so he took a shepherd to take care of his sheep and cows, swineherd to take care of his pigs, and beekeeper to take care of his bees, and told them, "I leave all of my property in your hands and in the hands of God." And he went on living like before the division with his brother. His brother, on the other hand, took care of his half of property as before. He was the shepherd, and swineherd, and beekeeper, but he saw no prosperity from the day he separated from his brother. Even worse, every day he had loss after loss, until one day, very soon, he became so poor he did not even have shoes. Then he said to himself, "I'm going to see my brother, to see how he's doing." And walking to his brother's house, he saw a huge flock of sheep on the meadow, but no shepherd, but a beautiful young girl sitting and spinning golden thread. He called her good day and asked about the sheep, to whom they belong, and she answered,
"They belong to the one to whom I belong too."
"And to whom do you belong?" asked the hard-working brother.
"I am your brother's luck,"
said the girl. Upon hearing that, hard-working brother got very angry and asked, "Where is my luck, then?"
"She is very far away from you,"
answered the girl. "And can I find her?" asked the brother further.
Yes, you can,"
said the girl, and added,
"Go look for her."
When hard-working brother saw that she belonged to his brother, he did not want to look any more of his property, but went straight to his brother's home. When his brother saw him, he got very sad and said in crying voice, "How did this happen in such a short time?" And he gave him some money and a pair of shoes. And hard-working brother stayed in lazy brother's house for several days before deciding to move on and to return home. As soon as he came home, he took a walking stick and traveling bag, put bread in it, and started wandering in search for his luck. So he traveled many days, and one day he found himself in a huge forest. Walking through it, he suddenly noticed a gray old woman sleeping under a tree. He hit her bottom with his walking stick, and she barely got up and opened her eyes, saying,
You should thank God that I fell asleep, 'cause if I was awake you would not get even those shoes."
"And who are you," asked the hard-working brother, "to be responsible for me getting these shoes?"
"I am your luck,"
answered the woman. When he heard this, he got very angry and said, "You are my luck? Perun strike you with his lightning! Who gave you to me?" And moving away from his anger, the woman said,
"Usud gave me to you."
And man asked, "And where is Usud?"
"Oh, go look for him,"
answered the woman, and disappeared. So the hard-working brother decided to go look for Usud, to ask him about his luck. And so he walked and walked, and traveled for many days until he reached a village, and saw a huge house in the middle of it, and huge bonfire burning in the yard, and said to himself, "This must be some kind of festivity or feast." And so he entered the house, and above the fire was a huge cauldron, and host of the house was sitting beside it. So they greeted each other, and host asked him who he is and where is he coming from. And Hardworking brother explained everything, that he was a rich man who lost everything and is now going to Usud to ask him why is that so. And the host of the house told him, "My friend, I am a rich man too, and I own a lot of things, as you can see. But I also have lots of friends and family, and they are insatiable. They eat like dragons. You will witness it yourself when dinner time comes." And when dinner time came, there was a huge commotion on the table, and guests were fighting for food, taking it from each other's plate, and they ate all the food from that huge cauldron. And after dinner, a girl came and collected all the bones and what little remained from the food, and she threw them behind the hearth. The man was puzzled about such a strange custom, but suddenly 2 old, worn creatures, dry as a bone, crawled out of somewhere, went behind the hearth, and started sucking those bones. Then man came to the host and asked him, "What is that behind the hearth, my friend?" And the host said with a sigh, "Those, my friend, are my mother and my father. It seems they chained themselves to this world. They cannot die." And when the morning came, and it was time for Hardworking brother to continue his journey, the host called him aside and told him, "My friend, if you ever find Usud, remember me as well, and ask him what kind of misfortune is this. Why are my friends so insatiable, and why are my parents not dying?" And man promised that he will ask, and went on looking for Usud. And so he walked and walked, and after many days of journey, in dusk, he reached another village where he asked if he can spend the night in one of the houses. One family was happy to take him in, and while they were having dinner, they asked him where is he going, and he explained to him all that has happened. When they heard his story, they started begging him to remember them as well, once he reaches Usud. "Please, ask Usud why our cattle does not multiply. We had so many of them, but numbers dwindle all the time. We had no calves since forever." And the man promised he will ask, and in the morning he moved on, because he was anxious to find Usud. Then, after many miles, he reached a huge water. It was so huge, you can't see its other shore. There was no bridge, no boat, and no raft to cross it. So our hard-working hero started shouting and calling the water. "Water! Oh, water! Carry me across!" And water answered from the deep, "Where are you going, wanderer?" And he explained his problems to water, and water felt sorry for him, so it carried him on a wave to the other side. But when he wanted to continue his journey, water begged him to ask Usud a question as well. "Please," the water begged, "ask Usud why there is no life in me. Why am I barren and lifeless?" And man promised he will ask the question as well before he went on forward. Shortly afterwards, he entered a vast forest, and in the forest he met a hermit who lived there, and asked him does he, perchance, know where Usud lives. And the hermit told him to go on a little further, and to cross the mountain, and just across it he will see the court of Usud. "But," said the hermit, "when you meet him, say nothing. Whatever Usud does, you do the same, and ask no questions until he asks you himself." and man was grateful for the information, so he thanked the hermit, and soon he was back on the road, through the forest, across the mountain, and next day he stood in front of court of Usud. As he stood there, he was amazed. In front of him stood the Imperial Palace, with servants and servant girls, and everyone was in a hurry. Usud was sitting alone by the great dining table and had his dinner. When the man saw that, he sat on the chair next to Usud and had dinner with him, not saying anything. After dinner, they went to bed to sleep, but around midnight a huge thunder could be heard outside the palace windows, and loud voice said in trembling sound,
"O Usud, so many souls were born today. Give them the fate you determined."
And Usud got up from his bed, opened the chest that stood in the corner, chest filled with gold ducats, and began taking handfuls of coins, throwing them around the room, saying, "As it was for me today, so shall it be for them until the end of time." And when morning came, there was no more Imperial Palace, but big manor, still very rich and filled with trinkets and possessions. And again was time for dinner, and Usud sat to eat, and man followed, just like the other day, all in complete silence. When midnight came, the same thunder was heard, and the same trembling voice called from the outside,
"O Usud, so many souls were born today. Give them the fate you determined."
And again Usud gets up from the bed, opens the chest with coins, but look! No more filled with golden ducats it was. It was filled with silver coins, with occasional ducat that shined like a little sun amidst the silvery water. And again Usud grabs handsful of coins, throwing them through the room, saying, "As it was for me today, so shall it be for them until the end of time." And when morning came, instead of huge manor, there was a smaller estate house. And every night Usud would throw the money found in the chest, and each morning the house would get smaller and smaller, until one morning it was but a small, humble hovel. Usud got up in the morning, took a hoe that stood beside the wall of the hovel, and started working in small garden. The man did the same thing, and when evening came, Usud took a piece of bread, broke it in two, and gave half of it to the hardworking brother who came to visit him. And after such a humble dinner they went to bed, and again, like many nights before, a trembling voice called Usud from the thundering storm.
"O Usud, so many souls were born today. Give them the fate you determined."
And again Usud opened the chest. But it was filled with moldy copper coins covered with rust, an occasional small silver coin, and again the same weird ritual. "As it was for me today, so shall it be for them until the end of time," cries Usud while he's throwing handfuls of copper coins through the room. And in the morning there was no hovel anymore, but Imperial Palace stood in its place, like the first day. And finally Usud asked the man, "Why did you come?" And man explained to him his misfortune, and that he came to ask Usud why did he give him such bad luck. Then Usud explained, "You have seen how I found huge riches in the chest on the first night, and you have seen all that happened afterwards. As it was to me on that night, so it shall be for all who were born on that day. You were born on the night when I was poor, and you will be poor until the day you pass on. Your brother was born on the night when I was rich, so he will always be lucky. But since you already came all this way and made this journey, I will tell you a way how can it be helped. Your brother has a daughter. Milica is her name. She was born, like her father, on the night when I was rich, when you come home, go to your brother and ask him to give you his daughter so you can be her stepfather. And whatever you earn, do not say it is yours, but hers. That way, possessions will not go away from you." And the man was so grateful to Usud he wanted to go home immediately. But then he remembered that he must ask questions for the people he met along the way who were kind to him. So he asked, "There is a man in a certain village, a very rich man, lacking in nothing. But he is so unfortunate. His friends and family are insatiable when it comes down to food, and are always hungry. They eat a full cauldron of food for meal, and they are still hungry. And his parents, it seems like they chain themselves to this world, and they refuse to pass on to the next. They are so old and worn, they look like some wretched creatures. That man begged me to ask you, what can it be?" And Usud replied, "That is because he does not respect his parents. He throws them bones behind the hearth as food, but if he would put them in the main seat on the table and give them first glass of brandy and wine, they would die very soon, and his family and friends would not eat half of what they eat now." And again the man asked Usud, "There is a man in certain village who offered me bed and shelter. He complained that his cattle does not multiply, but always waning, and had no calves. What can that be?" And Usud explained, "That is because when patron God's feast comes, he does not slaughter the best bull, but the worse. If he would only slaughter the best bull, his cattle would start multiplying immediately." And again the man asked Usud, "When I was coming here, I found a great water, who carried me across, and who begged me to ask you, why is she barren, and why she has no life in herself?" Usud replied, "She is barren because she never drowned a man. But be careful. Do not tell her that until she carries you to the other side, because she will drown you." Hearing the answers to all the questions, he thanked Usud and finally started his long journey back home. When he came to the water, she immediately asked him, "My friend, did you ask Usud why am I barren?" A man replied, Yes, carry me across and I will tell you what he said." And water carried him on to the other side, and as soon as he was on the solid ground, he ran to a nearby hill and shouted to the water, "O water, you are barren and lifeless because you have never drowned a man." Upon hearing that, the water started to expand, but since he stood on this hill, she could not reach him, so the man walked away freely and went on to the next village. As soon as he reached it, the man who had problem with his cattle ran to him and asked him, did he ask Usud a question? And the man repeated Usud's answer, to which the man replied,
"Please, my friend, stay at my house for a few days. You have a long journey ahead of you, so few days will not matter. I ask you this because in few days it will be my patron God's feast, and I intend to slaughter the best bull that I have."
And man stayed. In a few days they indeed slaughtered the best bull for the feast, and next morning the servants came into the house saying that cattle started to multiply. The owner was so grateful that he gave the man many cattle to take home as a sign of gratitude. The man thanked him, and herding the cattle he moved on to the next village. After many days of journey, he finally reached the village, and the host that lived there could hardly wait for the answers to his question. "My friend, in the name of all gods, tell me, what did Usud say?" And the man repeated Usud's reply. "You do not respect your parents. You throw them bones behind the hearth. But if you put them in an honorary place on your table and give them first glass of brandy and wine, your problem would be soon solved." Upon hearing this, the man begged him to stay the night in his home again, And when dinner came, he ordered his wife to wash his parents, to comb their hair, dress them in clean cloth, and put them first on the table. And he gave them first glass of brandy and wine. And what a miracle! His guests could not eat half of what was cooked. And when morning came, the wife came in the great hall, saying that his parents died during the night. As sign of gratitude, the host gave the man 2 more sheep to take home, and sent him with greetings and best wishes on the road home. So he was walking home, this time herding a huge flock of cattle in front of him, and whenever someone asked him to whom they belonged, he would answer that it all belongs to his niece, Milica. And finally he was back in his village. He went straight to his brother and asked him to give him Milica, his niece, to live with him, like with a foster father. And his brother, feeling pity for him, agreed. So he took the girl to his house, and whatever he would earn he would say it belonged to her, to his niece. Many years passed. His luck improved. He started earning again, amassed substantial wealth, bought land, and had many cattle. One day he was lying on a meadow, watching with satisfaction and pride one of the fields with golden grain almost ripe for harvest. It belonged, of course, to his niece. And some traveler passed by and asked him, "Whose is this beautiful field with this golden grain?" And our man, looking at all that beautiful grain, became avaricious and said, "It belongs to me, my friend." At the same moment a huge fire started in the grain field, and flames began swallowing the harvest. Men cried in despair and ran to catch the traveler, who already moved on. When he caught him, he said gaspingly, "It is not mine, my friend. The grain is not mine. It belongs to my niece." And immediately the flames subsided. From that moment on, he never tried his luck again. Whatever he owned belonged to his niece, and they lived happily ever after until the end of their days.